Welcome to the book club interview. My name is Scott Hollister, your host. Today's guest is Matt Faircloth, who is the co-founder and president of the DeRosa Group, a real estate investment company that specializes in buying and renovating dilapidated properties. Matt and his wife Liz started investing in real estate in 2004 with a $30,000 loan. DeRosa owns and controls a diverse portfolio consisting of residential and commercial assets throughout the East Coast and has completed more than $30 million in real estate transactions involving private capital. Matt and Liz are active contributors to the BiggerPockets community and parents to two adorable kids. So welcome to the show, Matt. How you doing today?
I am awesome, Scott. Thank you for having me here, and I'm really excited to get into a great conversation with you today.
I'm so excited. Book just came out, Raising Private Capital, published by BiggerPockets. Amazing book, by the way. So much content and so much experience. Absolutely loved it. It was well written. Each chapter, blew me away. So awesome job writing it. I know it probably took a lot of time.
More than I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
More than I thought it was gonna. When I said yes to writing the book, I didn't realize they just came to me and said, "You want to write a book?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to write a book." How hard could that be? It's challenging. For the self-discipline and getting beyond writer's block and that. I knew what I wanted to talk about, but getting it out of my head and onto a piece of paper to the point where it made sense and that where the ideas flowed together was the challenge. But it was all in all, looking back on it, it was fun and it was very rewarding.
Yeah. So what kind of success did you pick a day of the week and said, "Hey, listen, I got to write from like 8 to 4 p.m. and that's what it's going to be"?
Well, it took a lot of having my spouse's enrollment in this thing. And I think that this is true of all real estate, or maybe even just entrepreneurship, is that it just, for the sacrifices you have to take for this business, you have to have your spouse enrolled in this. And so my wife was very enrolled in me writing this book. And so she was like my helper. So she was the foot up my butt to get me to the Starbucks, or to get me to go to the office, or to get me to stay after hours or whatever. And there were a few weekends that she would just go away with the kids. And I would just stay home from like Friday until Sunday and just write and just knock out like 2 or 3 chapters at once. And so it took that discipline. It took a lot of just setting aside regular time in bigger chunks. The thing is, what didn't work for me was setting aside like a half an hour and doing a little bit of writing. Some authors can do that. For me, I need to take time to get the juices flowing and to acknowledge and get beyond the writer's block. And this is like for anybody else looking to write a book. What worked for me was to sit there for the first half hour and acknowledge there's going to be writer's block and to kind of I would fight writing. And so I would try and write, ideas wouldn't come, go check my email. Try and write again, fight writing, not happening, play a game of checkers on my phone. And just acknowledge the procrastination and get myself through it. And then beyond that half an hour, like the divine inspiration would hit me and my fingers would all of a sudden limber up. And I hate to say, for those that haven't done this, it's just, or for having really gotten their head into something that it's hard to relate to. But once I got into the zone and plugged in and started writing and the words started coming, I forget what time it was. I just all of a sudden an hour would be gone and I'd be, oh man, I just wrote like 10 pages. Look at that. I also I wasn't sure what the conversation was going to look like. I would start writing about a thing like, I'm going to talk about this. And then I would go off on a tangent. So there's certain sections of the book that I didn't know were going to be in there, because I would mention a thing and I'm like, I got to talk about that. And so, okay, let's hop down the rabbit hole. It feels like the right thing to do. And so off we go. My wife would be like, "How'd you do today?" I'm like, "That's great, honey. I'm still done. I'm almost done chapter 2." And she's like, "Baby, you were just started chapter 2 today. You were supposed to be finished chapter 2. I'm like, "Yeah, honey, I know, but you gotta understand." Like we went a whole nother place that I didn't know chapter 2 was gonna go. It was awesome. And she would read it like, "God, it's amazing. I didn't know you were gonna do that." And I was like, "I didn't know I was gonna do that either." It started to just come out of me. And so those moments were extremely rewarding, but it took this getting beyond the procrastination and getting beyond the writer's block to get into those moments. And there's no like silver bullet of getting through those things. I just found I had to wait them out.
Yeah, that's smart.
It's like, oh, do 10 push-ups, it'll get my blood flowing and the writer's block will go away. Now I have to just sit. I have to wait through it. I have to wait for the show to start. And then the show starts and off we go.
Yeah. No, I love that's a good tip.
That's a little slice. That's a little slice of what it was like to write.
Yep. And for anybody listening, either, writing a new blog post or reading a book, same thing. I feel like I have to get in that zone too of, getting past all the distractions and things like that. So it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's frustrating. And a lot of people like, I just can't write because they don't wait it out. They don't let the frustrations happen and let the distractions happen. But you keep thinking about it and you keep thinking like, yeah, I got to write something. What am I going to write? I don't know. What the hell? Let me just get back to this guy on my email real quick. So you do that, and then you keep thinking about the book while you're doing it, and maybe it spurs an idea, or maybe something comes up about a conversation you had yesterday, or whatever. And a lot of times, because I'm in the business, a lot of things I talk about are just things that just happened the other day. Like, I just talked to that guy about the time that he did a loan agreement with a private lender of his. So I'm going to talk about that. And so I would transpose a lot of things that have happened in day-to-day life. And I needed to take a moment to get still. I guess it's really what's happening is I'm getting my vibrational energy down and down and down to the point where I can really, get plugged in and write. So
yeah,
it's a great journey.
Yeah, I love that. Letting it happen to you and getting past it.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into the book. So I love, the beginning with the introduction of private capital in chapter 1. So there are numerous definitions. And how do you define private capital?
How do I define private capital?
Yeah.
So I define it as really it's good. I'll go big macro, right? It is the activity of like kind of raising private capital and just injecting it is the activity or the product of putting other people's wealth to work in your business, and it is that developing that trusting relationship that they're willing to take their wealth and entrust you with it and allow you to become the custodian of their wealth. That's what it is can be a very elegant strategic alliance and an extremely trusting, I hate to use this word, but it's just true, intimate relationship that you have with your investors, of them being willing to, kind of be vulnerable and allow you to control a bit of their wealth so that they can, achieve their financial goals while you build your business. So that is the complete Matt Faircloth version definition of it, and what I just came up with on the fly. So thank you.
Well said. So when it comes to the use of private capital, so what's the difference between debt and equity?
Sure. So private capital is just putting people's money to work, right? Mm-hmm. But debt is when I borrow their money and I owe and I pay them an interest rate, which my definition of interest is the fee I pay someone for the use of their money. So I have to pay them a fee because I'm putting their money to work somewhere. So I have to pay them interest. That's what that is. And debt is, in real estate, it's collateralized debt, meaning it's a collateralized loan, meaning I'm giving them a lien on a property or something that they could come and take if I don't pay the loan back. That's what collateral is. Some investors don't want to face that, but it's true that if you don't pay that loan back, they will come and they have the right to come and take whatever that thing is that they have a lien on. So that's debt. It is a typically fixed income type of thing. It's a fixed monthly payment or a fixed interest rate if you're not going to make monthly payments, whatever it is. And then equity is on the other side of it. Equity is direct ownership. As opposed to them giving you money with a fee attached to it. They are coming alongside you and taking ownership of the property with you. They are part owner. They are partners. They own a chunk of the dirt and the sticks and the bricks alongside you. That's what equity is. And they have a rights and benefits of the uptick on the property, or they have a rights of the loss on the property. If it goes down in value, that's theirs. If it goes up in value, that's theirs too. So that is the definition of the two.
Great. Now, what are some of the benefits and risks associated with each? And I know that could probably go on for the whole show, but just a few quick tips. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, the benefit of debt to the investor, to the debt. And in the book, I talk about the deal provider, cash provider, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the benefit of debt to the deal provider, the person that's producing the deal and for this other person to invest in, is that it's a fixed interest rate. So it's not like if you win big on the deal, you're not going to have to cut the investor a bigger part of that. You have to pay them their 8, 9, 10% interest, and that's it. If the downside of risk of debt is that if the property goes if the deal goes south and has a bad experience, or it's a bad deal, you still have to pay that interest rate. So it's a double-edged sword. So that's the benefits and risk of debt. The benefits and risk of equity is, equity, the biggest, again, I could say the same thing for equity and call them the same thing. This is true. But on top of that, with equity, is that, there's certain level of promises that you're telling people you're going to do. There's certain well, I think it's going to perform around here. And there's more pressure on the deal provider to make the property perform at a certain level so you can meet expectations of your investors. Whereas for a debt, it is what it is. You told them you're going to get them 8%, so you got to give them 8%. Is what it is. But for a equity investor, you may say, I think this project's going to perform around 15%. This is what I think. And so you're kind of laying your what on the line there, saying, this is what I think. And you better be able to meet those numbers, or you're going to be looked at as if you don't know what you're doing. And there's a certain reputation and level of integrity and expectation that investors have for you to meet those performances. So,
great. Now you speak about the unique factors of private capital and how it has 3 characteristics that make it unique. So negotiability, win-win, and the source of money. So how do each of these make private capital unique?
Sure. Well, the negotiability, if I approach a bank, and I'm not private capital. A bank is not private capital. Hard money lender is not private capital. A credit card is not private capital. All these things are not. Me approaching someone individually is private capital. And negotiability is the first one, then meaning saying, if I'm talking to my Uncle Charlie and say, hey, Uncle Charlie, listen, I want to borrow money from you at 7%, and I'm going to give you collateral on the property. And Uncle Charlie says, Scott, you're great. I like what you're doing, but I need to get 9 on my money, 9%. And you say, Uncle Charlie, let's meet in the middle and do it for 8. And they, that's negotiability. But a bank is not going to do that. They may flex this tiny little bit much, or we'll waive the application fee or something completely minor. But that's not true negotiability. In private capital, pretty much everything's negotiable, aside from things that are just defined by the law. Outside of just legal matters, anything in private capital is negotiable. And you can discuss with the individual. And that's what's great, is it's an individual putting their money to work in your business. So you can discuss whatever you want. That's negotiability. Win-win. And this is somewhat esoteric, but what I mean by that is part of the deal provider's job is to get to understand the cash provider, the other side of the transaction's goals, what their financial goals are. What do you want? What does wealth building look like? Are you investing capital to make money to put your daughter into college? Are you looking to build your retirement pool? Are you looking to, build up a pool of capital so that you can go buy a new house? What are you looking to do? And so win-win means addressing deals from a perspective and putting together parameters that meet the cash provider's goals while they meet yours too. Because it doesn't matter what a bank or hard money lender's goals are, because they're inflexible about it. You can't adjust things to meet their financial goals. But what's great about working with an individual is you can discuss goals, where they want to go, where you want to go, and you can put together something that hopefully meets both persons' desires, what they're looking for themselves. So that's win-win. The source of money, what makes this thing unique is you can go a couple of different places. And in the book, I talk about the 3 major sources of private capital are a self-directed IRA, so a retirement account, the real estate, so they can put a lien on their real estate and have that lien be a home equity line of credit. They can put the equity in their real estate to work in your business. And the book talks all about how to do that. Or they can just put straight cash to work. So what really the source of money means is that cash providers have several different ways that they can work with you. And what's great is they might not even know it. And so part of the deal provider's job is to educate them on, hey, you might not even realize it, but you can put that $500,000 you got sitting there in your retirement account, you can put it to work in real estate. Did you know that? And I'll show you how to do it. So that's what those mean.
Yeah, I love that. And the thing that screams to me the most is flexibility and having that maneuverability that you don't have with other rigid lenders. So,
Yeah.
yeah. In chapter 2, so let's talk about Mr. Faircloth's 4 prerequisites to raising private capital. So number 1, you have getting educated, which I love. What do you recommend when it comes to education?
I know you love it, man. You're reading a book a week over there. You're like, Captain Educated,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I digress. So go ahead.
Yeah. So, and comes to private capital, education. Obviously, your book is a great place to start because I feel like it gives you a beautiful outline and great action steps to start. So, besides reading, is there any other type of education that you would recommend?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least at this point mention BiggerPockets.com. BiggerPockets is the publisher of the book, but that's why I should do that. But also, BiggerPockets is where I got started, and it's where it's not where I got started in my business, but it's where I got started in being a voice of real estate investing to a larger community and writing articles and shooting videos and being on podcasts and stuff like that. So I think that consuming the information on BiggerPockets. So why I love BiggerPockets as a source of education is it is real estate investing education produced by real estate investors. It's not produced by third party, run to the back of the room people or whatever. I mean, I'm running a business. I didn't write the book so I could sell books. I wrote the book so I could share some things I've learned in my active, still ongoing real estate company. And 99.99999% of the people that produce content for BiggerPockets.com are active real estate investors. And so I think that I would recommend that. I would also consider going to local real estate, like RIA clubs in your local market, but just take it with a grain of salt because a lot of times they'll bring in the run to the back of the room. We only got 5 left. Pay me $10,000 and I'll whisper the secret of real estate in your ear and stuff like that. They bring in those guys sometimes. So just take it with a grain of salt when they bring those people in and just try and get connected to local people that are actually in the business. So those are 2, I think, great ways to get connected, to get educated.
Yeah. Awesome. Number 2, you have developing a track record. So what are some good ways to develop a track record in the beginning of your real estate investing career?
Well, obviously the easiest way to do it is just, get out there and do a deal with your own money, right? So if you don't have your own money, and if you can't do that, if you don't have good credit, your own money or whatever, you can consider, in the book, we talk more about, other activities, becoming a realtor, get your real estate license. You can become a wholesaler. You could, people don't think about this, but it's true. Becoming a property manager for someone else's real estate portfolio will teach you all the ins and outs of landlording. You'll probably get to meet real estate attorneys and other landlords, get your head bashed in by tenants a few times and stuff like that, and have a tenant, run circles around you and everything like that. The tenants tend to thicken up your skin. So you get to do all that hands-on activity to develop a track record. And the last one that people never talk about, but it's absolute great hands-on experience, is becoming a project manager for an active flipper. So finding a flipper in your local area and saying, hey, I've got a lot of time on my hands. And if you don't have money, most likely you've got some time. And that you can go and spend your time shooting pictures of their flips and meeting contractors over there, running to Home Depot for them and stuff like that, and being a set of legs. And then using that flip or that property you're managing or the property that you sold as a realtor or whatever as a feather in your cap, as part of your track record that you can eventually present to private money folks that want to work with you.
Great tips. Number 3, taking a personal inventory. So what areas do you recommend we assess to gain clarity in our lives?
Sure. I think at the end of the day, we all, have our God-given gifts and our skills and our talents and, what we're great at. So taking personal inventory is really looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, what am I great at? Because I firmly believe this. And this isn't like, hokey stuff or whatever. I firmly believe that everybody's got something that they're great at. And I think that part of the journey of life is figuring out what that is. And then turning up the heat on it as hard as you can, apparently you're great at reading books. So, keep that up. But get great at something or find out what you are great at naturally. And then find a way to document that or put that out there to say like, hey, I'm great at managing people. I'm great at motivating people. I'm great at running numbers. I'm great at writing. I'm great at relating, whatever it is. And if you really truly don't know, ask like 5 people that really love and respect you, your siblings, your parents, your best friends, whatever. Ask them, what am I great at? Because I'm looking to become a really great real estate investor. So, and these people you're talking to could be future investors of yours, by the way. So ask them what they're great at. and look yourself. I call it like looking yourself in the relationship mirror of one of the people you have close relationships with, and they'll tell you what you're great at and why they think you're awesome. So that's what personal inventory is.
Great. And last but not least, number 4, creating a business plan. So what's one of the best models to use?
Well, there's a book called The One-Page Business Plan. I don't know if you've heard that one yet, but you should check it out. But that's what we use. That's the model that we've used for our businesses or for our presentations and stuff like that, because the one-page business plan model takes what could be a 30, 40-page conversation on why my business is great and lots of diatribes and stuff like that, and it boils it all down to a one page. And so I think that the one-page business plan model forces you to be super concise, super crisp, and really just talk about the big rocks for your business. So we like the one-page business plan model, so I recommend that one. And the business plan is just taking everything I just talked about and everything the book talks about in more depth and boils it down into like a 1 to maybe 2-page thing.
Okay, good. Quick summary so you know what you're talking about. In Chapter 3, so you talk about the investor's role as a deal provider. So how are systems the key to success in your business?
Well, in my business, I mean, I think in any business, systems or anything or everything. And so in my business, we have a system that we've developed. I probably should not get into every system that we like the actual nuts and bolts of the system, but I'll just say what system we have. So we have an acquisitions system. So if we find a deal, it goes into the acquisitions pipeline. We have a financial management pipeline for my company, meaning just how bills get paid and how investors get paid and how this, and we're constantly refining the process and adding more nuts and bolts to the process and saying like, we really need to, it'd be great if we added a little more meat to this, or a little, like if we XYZ this, you know what I'm saying? And just put more detail to it, or we're just discovering more needs for systems. And so we're kind of like systems police in that way. It's like, this isn't working, this could use a system. And I recommend anybody that doesn't have systems in their business, just try and systematize everything. And it will make it repeatable to where you're not having to invent the wheel every time you do something.
Okay, great. Now, here's one of my favorite quotes from the book. It resonates with me on a personal level, and here it is. So, to live a bigger life, you need to learn how to be a bigger human being. So what were you trying to teach the readers with that quote?
Sure. Well, I've learned. I've done a lot of personal transformation work and done stuff outside of real estate that are just about, personal transformation. And I have learned that the condition of your life is immediate reflection of your inner view of yourself and your view of your net worth and your view of who you are. I mean, so it's an exact mirror. And so I think that, and it's a view, it's a reflection of your limitations and a reflection of your blind spots and the things you haven't cleaned up yet in your life, and just your work on yourself is a reflection of where you're at. And there's people that don't want to face that. They want to blame the condition of their life or the fact that they're here and they want to be here on others. And that's very comfortable to be like, oh, it's my mother's fault, or it's my father's fault, or it's the fault of that guy that stole from me or whatever, right? And that's all very convenient to do that, but it's much more difficult to look yourself in the mirror and say, I own these things because of X, Y, Z, and I'm going to elevate my life by digging in and working on myself first. And I've only found elevation in my life by elevating myself first. And it's just that's just through firsthand experience, and also through learning a lot from others that have achieved success on their own. So that's what I mean by you elevate you, and that brings your life up too.
Mm-hmm. That's very foundational. I love that, starting with that base and becoming a strong person. So when you are thrown a curveball, you can handle it, and you can always revert back to, what your core philosophy is.
Yep.
And then you have, in the book, you talk about the deal provider investment vehicles, and you have 3 keys to success. And the first one is under promise and over deliver. So what are you trying to, when you go into a deal, what does that look like to you?
Sure. When you're presenting something to an investor, understand to a cash provider, understand that they don't know as much as you do about the deal, and it's not your job to completely make them a real estate expert as you are. It's your job to just set up some expectations and everything like that. So I firmly believe in under promising and over delivering when I can. I also don't want to completely undersell the project to where it doesn't sound attractive anymore. But you do want to just set up conservative expectations, and then I work my tail off to blow those out of the water, you know? And so it's setting up. Yeah, you don't want to, because the other option to under promising and over delivering is over promising and under delivering, right? And one doesn't sound as inspiring, does it? I mean, because it's very easy to over promise and under deliver if you're a talker like I am, and if you're a good salesman like I am, you know. And so I also know firsthand that when I first got started, under promising and over promising and under delivering is very easy to do. And so by holding myself in check on what I tell people I'm going to do is the only way that I can truly outperform their expectations. And that's an easy way to get people to invest with you again, is if you overdo what you tell them you're going to do in a long term. Like I've had projects that didn't return very well in the first year or something like that, but I was tenacious about it, and I stayed on the project, and I pushed the property manager, or pushed whatever it was making it fall short. And I eventually brought it back around. And so there's going to be slow periods, and there's going to be times where on a microscopic level where you're not meeting expectations. But if you keep pushing and work your way up and stay on it, then you will eventually outperform investors' expectations if you're tenacious about that, about doing it.
Key number 2, so communication is everything. How do you like to communicate with your investors?
I will sometimes just pick up the phone and call them. We have a monthly newsletter that if I need to just run something by an investor verbally, I'll just give them a call. It's hard to do given the amount of investors we've built our way up to, so it's hard to stay in phone contact with all of them. But an easy way to stay in contact with as many investors as you got, no matter how many you have, is with a newsletter or with email communications. So we do that. We send out a monthly newsletter to all of our investor database, and just, this is what we're doing, this is where this is where that is, this is this project, this is that project. So yeah, it's a good way to keep up with everybody through a monthly newsletter, and then we just put whatever is exciting and new in our business in that newsletter. Yeah.
And how much time do you think it takes you to put together that newsletter each month?
Maybe an hour a month.
Okay, nice.
I mean, that's to assembly. That's to assembly.
Yep.
Then I shoot, so I'll shoot a YouTube video from my YouTube page, and I'll pump it out on the YouTube page, so that's some fodder for that. And then I'll take it and repackage it and put it in the newsletter, knowing that when I shot the video, it was going to go in the newsletter the whole time. And so I'm constantly collecting data when I'm out in the field, when I'm looking at properties, whatever it is, and that data goes into my archives. And then when I do the newsletter, it's like, hey, I was at that project. Let me pump some of those pictures in and give a quick write-up. So it's really a summary of things I've touched during the month, and everything like that, or projects I've been on during the month. But actually the assemblage of it is less than an hour. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, number 3, fall in love with this business. So why do you love real estate?
Why do I love real estate? Well, the reason why, the other option is if you don't fall in love with this business, because this business can be very unforgiving sometimes, and it's not all sunshine and cash and checks and everything like that. There's hard decisions and, picking yourself back up and dusting yourself off in this business. So I firmly believe that you have to love this business to get through it, or it will eat you up. That's the real reason why you got to fall in love with this business. But I love the business because it produces time for me, because it allows me to make a big impact on people's lives in where they live, in their financial well-being, in where they work. Just real estate touches a lot of people's lives in different levels, which is why the mantra for my company is to transform lives through real estate. Because we want to make a difference, we want to make an impact as a company, and as humans. Liz and I do, my wife. So that's why I love this business. It enables me to make a difference on a broad enough scope, on a lot of different levels.
Yeah. Now, you talked about the cash provider and how do you know if you're going to be a good fit in the book, and I love that. So you identified 2 qualities above all else in chapter 4. So integrity and trust. So how do you build these through your relationships?
Well, integrity, you just really, do what it is that you say you're going to do, which is maybe a novel concept to folks. It's the opposite of it. It is, integrity really is what's behind under promising and over delivering, because it's just staying on it and in it. Because if I gave somebody my word, I'm going to get them their return or get them their money back, or I'm going to make a project work, then that's integrity. Yeah.
All right. So moving on to chapter 5. So you talk about finding cash providers. We talked about, how to build integrity, how to build the trust. So where's a good place? And it's not like I'm talking about going to a grocery store, finding a cash provider. So, where do we find these people and how do we take it to the next level?
Could you direct me to the cash provider aisle, please? And it's aisle 2. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
So you find them in your own personal network by talking to everyone about what you do, and by broadcasting the fact that you're a real estate investor and you're looking for partners to help to build their wealth while you build your business. That's a simple way. The book goes way into more detail on it, but the simplest way to do it is to be a beacon of real estate investing in your community, and local people that know and like and trust you are going to come to you. And that's the way you find them.
Great. Now, you summarized chapter 5 at the end in one sentence, and you said, put one foot in front of the other. Now, why is it important to run a marathon instead of a sprint?
Well, this business is a marathon. This isn't a flash in the pan. Even as much as the run to the back of the room gurus would love to tell you, you will most likely not be a millionaire next month, next week, tomorrow, or even next year because of real estate. But it'll, if you run the marathon and get into this business long term, it will absolutely create long term wealth and create time and create everything that you want from this business if you stay in it. In that, but people, this is not a flash in the pan, get wealthy overnight, get rich quick. As much as people try and paint it that way, it's not. Not from anyone I've ever seen in this business is this a get rich quick business. This is a work your ass off and get rich eventually, business, and that's the marathon. So that's why I think that it's so important to just put one in front of the other and progress and do a little better the next day and build and build and build. And then you look back over like a year or two, like, oh man, look what I just did,
It's some great wisdom because, like you said, you hear that a lot, and oftentimes, that's the ultimate goal is that financial freedom. And if you just, put one foot in front of the other, that's amazing advice. It's so simple, but, I got to write that down, keep that right on my desk.
Nobody wants to hear it.
Yep.
You could write down, work your ass off and get rich eventually kind of thing.
Right under that one, subline.
Yeah, right.
Love it. So turning some potential into reality in chapter 6, I love the introspective approach that you took with this chapter. A lot goes to finding our personality strengths and pointing out our blind spots. So how can we become crystal clear on our weakness?
I think it's a matter of really looking, again, that part about looking yourself in the mirror again, and looking yourself in the mirror and deciding what you're great at, but also deciding what you suck at. Be like, oh man, I'm really just not the best at running the numbers on my business, and I had to own that. Be like, I'm not the best financial analyst, or not the best with details. I'm not, and I just need to be okay giving those things away to others that are great at that. And my buddy Brandon Turner gave me something a while ago. He was like, if you look at your business and determine some things that you're awful at and can't do, if you turn that around, there are people in the world that are great at those things that you could pay that would feed their family doing things that you are awful at doing. That's inspiring. It's like, man, I could not have to do something and build a business that's big enough that I could pay somebody to do what I'm not great at, and they could feed their family, keep their lights on, whatever, for doing something that I hate. That sounds amazing. And they love it. They love doing that thing that they're doing,
Yeah. So what's your favorite position that you've hired out that's helped you the most in your business?
My books.
Okay.
Running my books. Absolutely. I hate it, but I love running. I love looking at the numbers and when they're done, but compartmentalizing money and putting this over here, and it requires way more attention to detail and way more patience than I got. And that's so that was my first hire, was a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
So.
Great. Okay, some good advice. Now, the one thing that potential investors care about the most is protection of their money. So what are some of the most common questions that, an investor might ask when you're, talking about, potentially investing?
It's not the question you think. It's not what kind of return, or what's my rate of return going to be? What's your internal rate of return? What's the cash flow? What's this? What's that? Those are all things investors think that cash providers want to talk about. Cash providers, if they know nothing about real estate, want to talk about, how's my money going to be protected? Can I trust you? When am I going to get my money back? Explain to me the nuts and bolts of where my money's going to be and when I'm going to get it, and everything like that. So that is what people really want to know.
Interesting. So, do you have any savvy real estate investors that obviously ask a different set of questions?
Sure.
Yeah. What's the number one question they typically ask? Right off the bat.
They want to know what's the rate of return, how much money, but they think their biggest question always is how much money you're putting in.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, they always want to know that. And if you're not gonna put any money in, you need to own that, man. Not like I'm not gonna put in anything. I'm gonna rely on all your money. There's a way to flip that, and that's like, well, I might not put in any cash, but I'm gonna put in 30 hours a week of work, and I'm going to put in my personal guarantee on the bank loan that we're going to take on the property. And I'm going to put down my entire reputation. It's taken me 13 years of investing in real estate to build. I'm going to put that on the line. Those things. Yes, I may not put in dollars. That's on you as the cash provider. I'm going to put in all that other stuff. My reputation, my credit, my labor, my work ethic, all the resources I've built as a company, and the opportunity to completely fold my company up if this thing doesn't work. And to kind of put my absolute whatever on the line, that my reputation will be kicked if this deal doesn't work. That's what I'll put in. How about that? It's perhaps more valuable than the dollars. If you say it that way. But people that the syndicators perhaps don't have the cojones to put it that way. I've been learning to do that because I've been like, no, I'm not going to put in any money, and it doesn't go too well when you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip this one.
Yeah. Right. Next question. Right. I'll pass on that one. Yeah.
Yep. Aisle 3, right next to cash providers. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So 7 and 8 chapters. I love this. You talk about structuring some of the private loans and the equity deals and going into nuts and bolts because when you're first starting out, it's kind of daunting. There's not a lot of educational books out there that teach you how to structure, and you start the chapter designing on terms of loan, private loan pitfalls, and talking about a win-win scenario for the deal provider and cash provider. So chapter 8 gets right into nuts and bolts of structuring private equity deals. So what are some reasons that deal providers should consider giving up equity in a deal?
Well, that's the only way that they're going to be able to do bigger deals, right? Like you can do small deals with debt. I don't recommend. In the book, I give a perfect example of, let's say, like I ran 2 scenarios. Here's a dilapidated apartment building that needs a bunch of work. You remember this section, right? Yep. Here's a dilapidated apartment building that needs a bunch of work. Here's what it looks like if you bring in equity investors. Here's what it looks like if you just borrow all the money from a private lender. The deal would absolutely kick your butt as a private lender if you ran it as a private lender scenario. If you ran it as an equity investor scenario, it makes everybody a ton of money, and it's the same deal.
Yep.
This is the project. You can run it one way with private loans or the other way with equity. What's great about equity is equity investors don't necessarily require a monthly payment like a loan provider will, and they can play the long game better than debt providers will. And so in that scenario, the deal made a bunch of money for everybody in exchange for them waiting a year for you to renovate it, get the rents up, do reno, and then you refinance it and you give them all their money back. What's great, Scott, is in the book there is an example that I believe, if you recall, it's in chapter 7. We talk about it's the same deal. It's a apartment building deal that's a little dilapidated and needs some work. I run one scenario to say, okay, what if you put a private lender on that deal? And what if you put private equity on the deal? Private equity in general works on a longer term project. You're trying to create real value. You have a big bump in value, and then you refinance to reap some of that value back, right? And so that scenario is a great example of why private equity, because you might have to give a little bit away in exchange for investors waiting a little bit longer to get their money back, but then you can create big returns for them if they're willing to wait a bit.
Okay. Now, I love what you said in the book. It kind of removes that glass ceiling. So what is that glass ceiling? Is it using mostly debt and then that equity just allows you to play at that larger level?
Yeah, you can't do bigger deals. I mean, you're probably not going to go out and buy a 100-unit apartment building or a $3 million strip center or a self-storage center or whatever it is on just private loans. You need to figure out how to structure an equity deal and bring people in as owners on that. And I would challenge you to find an investor, like a big real estate investor that's got thousands of units or whatever, or is at the at beyond that glass ceiling and is into the next level of real estate, that has not given away some equity. Or has not sold equity on deals or brought in, passive investors in projects. If you want to play small, and you can do that, there's nothing wrong with it. You can do all debt deals and continue to own 100% of the portfolio, but you're never going to make it to the next level of bigger, larger projects. And it's up to the investor on whether they want to go slow and steady or whether they want to get into bigger projects.
Yeah. And I wish we could talk more about Chapter 8. That was 28 pages full of great content and knowledge. I mean, that chapter blew it out of the park, man. It was good stuff. Yep. And here we are at the last chapter. So move on a little bit. The management, exiting, and beyond. And I want to really talk about your ability to recognize things that are important or not important, along with urgent or not urgent. And here's a quote that I underlined and circled in the book. It said, "Nothing is wrong with these things, but if we spend our whole day working on things that are urgent but not important, nothing important gets done." So how do you cut through that clutter to do things that are important but not urgent?
Yeah, I mean, I should give a shout out right now to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because that's where that came from, and everything like that. And that's so that you and I don't get sued, but also but that's also because that book is chock full of great information and everything like that. But the way that I handle just getting the important stuff done is I plan out my year. And then I take that year plan and I plan out I like reflect on that and say, okay, I'm going to plan out my week. And I put my big rocks in first. Another habits of highly effective people thing is I put the big rocks in first, meaning like I plan out my week saying, I'm going to make sure that I do these things. And then everything else, the reactionary stuff, will happen beyond it. And I think it's also just knowing that being proactive is a choice, being reactive is a necessity. There's things that are going to show up that I'm going to have to do because it's just I got to be in response mode sometimes. But a lot of business owners find themselves 100% response mode all the time, and they don't defend their calendar as much as they should. And so I tend to chunk my calendar out, and I have a couple of reactionary days that are just responding to requests from me, and then I have days where I just unplug and I do only proactive activity. So that's why you and I are speaking right now on a Tuesday, because Tuesday is my reaction days. But my proactive days are Wednesday and Friday. So
really? Okay. So do you blocking off all Wednesday and Friday?
You could not reach me on Wednesday. That's when I'm out walking my jobs, locking myself into a Starbucks and turning my phone off. Or doing what I want to do to advance my business. And that might mean evaluating a deal. That might mean just whatever it looks like, or it might mean just get myself caught up, and just doing like a lot of the reactionary stuff that's been flowing over and over and over, like getting back to people on email. A lot of people suck at that, but I want to just like empty out my inbox a couple times a week. So I might take some of my Wednesday to do it if I choose to. But Wednesday and Friday are my days, and those are blank calendars. You cannot meet with me those days because those are the days that I'm going to get caught up unless I choose to. Like I'm having coffee with a banker tomorrow about potentially doing more business with that bank. That's worth a Wednesday. That's worth Wednesday lunch, especially he's going to buy lunch. So no real problem. I'll let him buy me lunch. But I get to choose that. If I'm in a reaction time, I don't get to put that anywhere. That's business growth stuff.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So investor relations are one of those tasks. How do you use an organized system to handle prospective investors and keep in touch with current cash providers? Yeah,
we use Podio, and you can use whatever you want, but Podio is what we found is a good system that has a natural. And we looked at Pipedrive. And we even looked at paying for Salesforce, which is like a jacked up CRM system and stuff like that. But we look at as investors as potential clients, and so it's almost like it's CRM. It's like a sales protocol that you have to take on, and then you got to keep them happy once they're in, and keep communications up and stuff like that. So when people approach us, they fill out an investor qualification form that vets them to make sure that they are qualified to invest with us, and that is an SEC box you got to check. And so we do that, and then I schedule a call with them, go through their goals, and I talk about what they want for wealth building and stuff like that. Then I get into talking about what we do, and then they go into Podio, and Podio dumps them into our CRM, our database for the newsletter. So then they automatically get the newsletter once they've been vetted and qualified as a prospective investor. And then when I have a deal show up, I can filter through Podio and okay, let me find who's looking for equity deals, because I can check off boxes in Podio to say that is, Joe Smith is a potential equity investor. He told me that he has roughly $200,000 he's looking to put to work in real estate through his IRA. So bottom line, you can use systems like Podio or a CRM to quickly filter through your investor database. And it might be hard for your listeners to like relate to this, but this thing builds up quick. And so you might start out with like 5 investors that want to work with you, but pretty quickly, like we have our investor database is like around 300 qualified people that have already talked to me. We know how much money they have. We know what they can put to work. And that. So when it gets to be that big, like I was running this thing originally on an Excel spreadsheet, like of my investors. Then it got to be so unwieldy. It's like, well, what does that guy want to do? I have to call him up, say, hey, we talked a year ago about investing in real estate. Are you still interested? No. The CRM stays in contact, and if they take themselves off the newsletter eventually, then I see it. Okay, they're not interested anymore. Bye bye.
Yep.
So anyway, that's why the CRMs are awesome in managing an investor database.
Great, using systems. So what are some of your favorite daily and weekly actions that lead to the biggest payoffs?
Well, planning my week's a good one. In that, as I said, we talked about it earlier. That probably leads to the biggest payoff. Chunking out my time, and then also I didn't mention this, but I do Tuesdays and Thursdays are my reaction days. Wednesdays and Fridays are my proactive days. Monday is my manager day. So Monday is where I either have a video call or a face-to-face with anyone that manages anything for me. And that's where I just set goals with them and what are we going to do? Where's this? Where's that? So that's more of like a just touching base on goals and touching base on productivity and kind of being the motivator that I need to do and just manage the people that are managing stuff for me and everything like that. So that's what I do on Monday. So really compartmentalizing my time is the best benefit.
Well, I love that because at first when, moving over to a full entrepreneur, I felt that struggle in those poles of everything, and everything was just chaos. But
you got to compartmentalize it.
Yeah. No, that's an amazing tip. Yep. And that last chapter, that was another great chapter, and on page 179, you talk about doing whatever it takes. And you said that one of the core secrets to being successful is the desire to keep pushing and not quit. So how do we get through the hard times?
You gotta be positive. You gotta have a positive attitude. Because again, during hard times, you can very easily go down the rabbit hole of self-hate and self-deprecation and depression and everything like that. And I've been there, man. I've done that. I've been to the bottom of that. And I know that that's not a fun place to be. So you're better off, staying positive, finding the silver lining, you gotta be the biggest optimist ever, and everything like that to get through tough times and to try and find the angle, find the out, find the way that with continued integrity you can work your way out of a down spot or out of a struggle or out of a rough patch or whatever it is. That's what it looks like to do whatever it takes, and also to kind of dust yourself off and pick yourself up when you get teeth kicked in a little bit.
Yeah, and you talk about that story where your teeth got really kicked in, and I don't want to dive into it here, but that chapter, man, wow.
$750,000. We're still in the middle of that, by the way. But
Yep.
I mean, we did the right thing by our investors. We bought
Right.
we had that much money stolen from us, and I just gave them my ownership of a big apartment building project in exchange for covering it, in exchange for their equity. In that. So and hopefully I'll be able to earn that back by recovering it through legal. But yeah, man, that's the right thing. It was just felt like the right thing to do, and I knew that was the right thing to do, and I had to cover these people and that. So yeah, I mean, this business, can hit very hard when you get big, when you start playing with bigger zeros,
Yeah. Well, I think that's a definition of integrity, what we were trying to defining earlier is that right there. That's the real life example. No.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to. I think so. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Is by doing right by your investors, no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's amazing to think that you're creating a win-win situation for someone that is trying to create a great investment secured by real estate, and like you said, they could be planning for their kids' college education, their retirement, and they're also helping build your business. To me, it's just
Yeah.
win-win all the way around. And
They trust you.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, they're doing this because they like and trust you, and because they want to build a bigger life for themselves, and they don't trust Wall Street anymore, nor should they.
hmm
And they want to find someone that they can trust that's going to do the right thing for them. And that's up to you as the deal provider to be that person. And so if you're willing to cut corners and willing to take the short, easy road and not look yourself in the mirror, then you got to get that out of the way before you start raising money for people. And if you got a cash provider listening to this, then make sure that that person is willing to do the right thing and willing to take it on the chin on your behalf if they have to, and
Yep.
then fall on their sword for you if they have to, and put themselves behind you, which is what we're willing to do.
Yeah. Ah, well said. I love it. Before we wrap things up, you want to tell the listeners where they can find out more about you, what your favorite social media source is, and where to pick up a copy of your book.
Sure. My favorite social media source is probably our YouTube page. So you're going to go to youtube.com/DeRosa Group, and that's DEROSA Group. And they can also hear about everything that we're doing, including watch some of our best videos on our YouTube page. Connect with my wife's podcast, which is called the Real Estate Invest Her Show, which is investing for women. They can buy the book. They can do all that stuff on my website, which is DeRosaGroup.com, www.DEROSAGroup.com, DeRosaGroup.com, and all that stuff is out there. And whatnot. And if they want to hear more about investing with us, they can check that out too. If they want to learn from us, they can do that as well. And we also, I should mention, a segment of our company is called DeRosa Gives, and that means that we take a segment of our side of profit on a deal, not investors' profit, our profit, and we donate it to charity. So
Amazing.
So we do a pretty big give back program for my business's income.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Matt. Well-written book, plenty of content that is so valuable. I can't recommend enough. Amazing. I know it wasn't easy, so I'm glad you wrote it for others.
I'll say this to you, and I'll say this for everybody else that's listening that's already read the book. And Scott, I need you to promise me you'll do this for me. I need whoever to go to Amazon.com, and you got to buy the book from my website or from BiggerPockets.com. You can buy it on Amazon too, but that's fine as well. But I need more reviews on Amazon. And so whatever you thought of the book, if you loved it, great. If you didn't like it, okay, whatever. Just put what you thought, because I need reviews and feedback on Amazon to continue to get excitement built around this book that we worked our tail off to create. So go to Amazon.com and look up Raising Private Capital and leave us a review in that. So please do that for you personally, but my friend Scott, and also to all of our folks that are listening that have read the book already. Please give us a review. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, great action tip. Head right over right now. So thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate it.
Cool.
And that concludes our book club interview with author Matt Faircloth, who wrote the book Raising Private Capital. I learned so much through today's podcast, the challenges of him writing the book and his tips to help you get past the distractions and just letting things happen. He gave us a definition of private capital, the different uses of debt and equity, his 4 prerequisites to raising private capital, and the keys to success in his business. And before we cut things off, I really want to leave you with this excerpt on page 85. It's his final thoughts on cash providers. And here's a direct quote from the book. There are a few things I can't stress enough when working with cash providers. I would say to treat their money as if it was your own, but it's not your money, it's theirs. You need to be extremely respectful with how you invest it. You may be willing to take risks with your own cash, but always be more cautious with theirs. Your investors most likely view you as a vehicle to reach their long-term wealth goals. They're putting their financial future in your hands. This could be their kids' college money, their retirement money, or money they plan to leave to the children as a legacy one day. Don't ever take them or their money for granted. If your investors see the respect you hold for them and their investment, you will have a lifelong partner who will get behind you again and again on your projects. And to me, that's what it's all about. I love that because, you really want to help family and friends out and other investors who are looking to place their capital. And I think if you have the integrity and you have the track record and the trust built, it truly is a win-win situation. And I think Matt did a wonderful job outlining that in the book and educating others on that process. And that's going to wrap things up for today. My name is Scott Hollister, your host. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, hit subscribe on iTunes so you can stay up to date to the authors we're interviewing. We'll see you next time.